Hi, I'm the List Girl, and welcome to my video graphic journal.
Hi, I'm the List Girl, and true to the name, I'm a little bit obsessed with lists, of which this channel consists of 3. My bucket list allows me to come out of my comfort zone through experiencing new skills, hobbies, and activities, as well as introducing me to amazing new cultures and lifestyles. Then there's my personal upgrades list designed to help me pick up the traits and habits that I lack in order to grow and develop into a better person. And lastly, there's my career list to keep me on the track to success in both my YouTube career and my business of selling nerdy collectibles. But at the end of the day, I'm just a huge nerd somewhere on the spectrum with way too many hobbies, just trying to prove that life truly is what you make it.
For those of you that don't know me, I am many things, and I come with many labels. I'm Portuguese, I'm creative, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm autistic, I'm a Christian Buddhist, I'm a rabbit parent, I'm a gardener, I'm a bookworm, I'm a videographer, I'm a lesbian. I am many things, but there are 2 labels in particular that most people would consider not to go very well together, and that is a minimalist and a gamer. This video is going to explain how I can be both. So here's the thing, I've been a video gamer ever since I was able to use my hands. I was about 5 years old when I got my very first PlayStation. The first game I ever played was Hercules. From there, I fell in love with gaming. I even still have that original Hercules PlayStation 1 game on my Vita, and I sometimes revisit it for nostalgia's sake. After Hercules came Crash Bandicoot, then Rayman, and Tomb Raider 2. Which ended up being my favorite game of all time, and to this day I'm still very much obsessed with Tomb Raider franchise. After the PlayStation 1 came the Game Boy Advance, which I had to share with my siblings, and a PlayStation 2 as well, where a lot of my gaming really bloomed, to be honest, if that's the correct verb for that kind of thing. After a while, one Christmas, both myself and my little brother were gifted our very own DS consoles. I got the red one, he got the green one, and I was so jealous of him because I wanted the green one. But anyways, as a teenager, my video game collection grew very large. Several shelf fulls, in fact. Half of my room was a shelf of video games, and the other half was a shelf of books, both of which were my favorite things to collect for. Being autistic, I have always had this inept desire to collect things, and even now as a minimalist, it is still something that I struggle with. But the thing is, as a teen, and even now, gaming is a very important, crucial part of me, in the sense that it is my source of energy. Let me explain. Being that I am autistic, I burn out extremely fast. I burn out from social situations, I burn out from masking, I burn out from sensory overload, I burn out from working too hard. Think of it as a battery. Some people's battery are like the old school Nokia phone, can last for days on end, slowly losing charge in any of those mentioned situations, apart from the masking and the sensory overload, which have to do with autism, and I'll explain in a future video. Then there are other people whose battery may be like an Android smartphone, can last a good 2 or 3 days on standby, or even whilst, being frequently used. Then there's me and other people on the spectrum. My battery is like an old rundown laptop that only lasts about 1 or 2 hours before it needs to be plugged back in. Now this is probably an exaggeration, but either way, I burn out extremely fast, and my source of energy comes from having my alone time and playing video games. Doesn't matter what the game is, heck, it could be Pac-Man. I don't care. A few hours of playing and I am set to get back on track with life. As a teenager, videos became my best friend. After school, I'd come home completely drained. I'd sit in front of my TV, turn on my PlayStation, and lose track of the afternoon. The next day, I'd wake up and do it all over again. And that was my life. When I first became a minimalist, I got rid of the majority of my video games. And I got lost in this non-existent rule that you had to have a certain amount of items in your home to be considered a minimalist. The less the better. And I forgot that gaming is important for my well-being. Whether people understand that or not, I don't care. Everybody has their shit. Some people recharge with a good book. Others need to meditate. Some need to take a holiday. And others might need a hot bath. I love all of those things, don't get me wrong, but nothing recharges me better than alone time with my video games. And only this year have I realized that being a minimalist is not about the number of things that you have, it's about whether those things bring intentionality and add extra value to the life that you have. Obviously, giving yourself boundaries not to go overboard. For example, when it comes to my games, my physical ones anyways, I allow myself only 2 shelves. That is it, 2 shelves. That is my limit. Any more than that and I'm probably hoarding. I regularly go through the games and constantly ask myself, does this game still add value to my life? If there is a game I haven't yet played, I play it, and once I've played it, or even if I haven't even finished it, if I don't enjoy it, it disappears. I sell it in my shop, or if I do play it and I love it, then it stays. But I'm constantly re-evaluating the games that I do own. And I also have another rule that if I buy a new game, I have to get rid of a game that I already own. And I'm not allowed to buy a new game until I have completed going through all the games that I own, which is called a video game backlog. When it comes to my consoles, I have this amazing setup. I have found an absolute love for backwards compatibility. I know many gamers that have shelves and shelves full of different consoles and handhelds, all for different purposes, but the amazing thing about backwards compatibility is that I can have one console for many purposes, so I don't need shelves and shelves of consoles. I only need 4. My PlayStation 3 plays my PlayStation 3 games, and I use it to watch Crunchyroll, which is a Netflix version of purely anime. Then there's my PlayStation 2, which plays PlayStation 2 games and PlayStation 1 games. Then I have a 3DS, which plays 3DS games as well as DS games. And on the Nintendo store, you can purchase and download old Game Boy games, which means I not only have 3DS, DS, but I also have Game Boy games on my 3DS. 3 consoles in one. And then there's the creme de la creme, my PlayStation Vita, which plays PlayStation Vita games, PSP games, PS1 games, and even some PS4 games, as well as apps that you can install like Crunchyroll and Netflix. It even has movies and TV show compatibility, so you can go on the Sony web store and purchase and download movies and shows that you might want to watch on your Vita. But speaking of the Sony store, you can then also have a complete library of digital games, which are just like the physical games, but stored on the Vita, so you don't have to have all the physical copies around the house. However, saying that, I personally do enjoy seeing visually decoration sort of thing, physical games, which is why I have physical copies. But being a minimalist, I have personally added a rule for myself, or a boundary for myself, that I cannot have more than 2 shelves worth, and I currently have 1.5 shelf. And it's because of that amount of backwards compatibility and just variety of options on the Vita that makes it my favorite console. That is 4 platforms or 5 platforms on one device, which is amazing. The point I'm trying to make is that if you're trying to be a minimalist and you feel like you have to have like just 30 items in your home, that is not the purpose of minimalism. That is the absolute way to unhappiness, especially if you're the type of person who likes reading books, who likes playing games, who likes playing board games, who likes having plants and decorations around the house, or whatever it is you do, or whatever it is you're into. If you want a bunch of games because you love gaming, keep your games. Just create your own personal rules of how many you want to have. Same goes for books and decorations and plants and whatever else. But make sure that those items that you do have purpose and add value to your life. And most importantly, give yourself boundaries so that you don't lose track of yourself and what you're trying to go for, which is a more minimalistic life. And you go a bit off the rails thinking, I can have books, I'm gonna have all the books. If that is what you want, technically you can do that. But the point of minimalism, or one of the main points of minimalism, is to not feel so overwhelmed by clutter so that you can get on with your life, and rather than feeling like you're held down by the items that you own. For me, it's the 2 shelves of games. For me and Georgia, it's this bookshelf behind us, which has 1, 2, 3 shelves of books that we are allowed to have in terms of physical copies. We also have Kindles, which have a huge library, which has has no boundaries, which is why I love technology exists. You can have digital versions of things like movies, games, books, whatever, and you don't have to worry about having that clutter around your house, because visually too much clutter does have an effect on your mental health, on your mental well-being, and that is also another reason why minimalism exists, to attempt to prevent that. For you, it might be sports or hobbies, things they require items. The point of a hobby is to gain enjoyment. It is not about being constantly trying to clean up the clutter that comes with it. Therefore, if you have certain hobbies, say for example you're into arts and crafts, you own like shit ton of materials and equipment, maybe go through that and see if there is stuff that you've never used or don't feel like you ever will use again, or that are not required. Those things are the things that probably shouldn't be in your life, because they are just filling up space that could be like clean and free of visual clutter, which would affect potentially your mental health, as well as in the back of your mind you'll have this like nagging feeling that, oh, I must use those things because I own it. If you haven't used them and you're not going to use them, why have them there as the constant reminder? I hope all of this makes sense. The Minimalists are a great reference point. They have books, podcasts, YouTube videos, movies. In fact, I'm going to link in the description box below a very useful video that I want to watch, and sometimes I refer back to the podcast very frequently in case I lose myself again. It's a video that they did about someone had asked them a question about whether they're allowed to keep their books or not, and the minimalist basically just said the same thing I'm trying to say, so I'll link it below if you find that might be of use to you, just in case you feel like minimalism is pushing you into getting rid of your precious hobbies when you don't have to get rid of your precious hobbies. Anyways, I am the List Girl, and before I log off, I just have one question for you. What is your next adventure?